Weird science
is the revolution.
Batman Superman World's Finest number 22. Double Deuce, they call it, down in the Roadhouse land. Written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora, Tamra Bonvillain, to Steve Wands on letters there. A hell of a letter. We have the Kingdom Come stuff going on. We end up having Kid Thunder. He escapes off and will eventually, it seems,
Boy Thunder,
turn to Magog.
Once he becomes Thunder Man.
Yeah, well, at least he was able to grow up, unlike any of those legion of superheroes. I mean, I'm telling you, you end up like, half the people are like kid, last lad. They have beards down to their things. They're like 80 years old, still a lad.
Ageism.
I don't like it. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's the thing. I want to be a lad, is what it is. Jimmy Lad.
You are a lad.
I want to be called. Well, thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Just a little lad.
Yeah, just a little lad. So you end up getting into this, and the big play was Batman, Superman, they go to try to save Boy Thunder, David.
On
and when
Earth
they get
22.
there, things are better. Things aren't great on Earth Double Deuce, and they end up trying to figure out.
The thing is, things aren't great, but things are also better than they've ever been. It's all about perspective for Earth 22, because right now we are in the past of Earth 22, before Kingdom Come, before shit gets real, but things aren't exactly as you want them to be for the way the heroes are acting. It seems like, Thunder Man now might be behind some of it, at least.
Yeah, and so one of the things going with this, and we've had certain books like where they're, oh my God, this is a prequel to this, and you're wondering, oh my God, are they going to wipe out this story? I mean, we've had things such as like Killing Joke that you ended up having the Burnside Batgirl team try to wipe that out.
They
didn't succeed, Eric, but they tried. They actually, by the end, they ended up saying, it's wiped out if you want it to be. And some people at that point wanted it to be. Maybe some people now. But in this, you wonder, like, he can't go that far.
No, Mark Waid is not going to erase his own story.
No, and it's such a huge story. But it is kind of a neat play when you think about them trying to maybe stop it, maybe stopping it before they even know what it turns out to be. But you see it, the gears are still churning.
I have no idea how this is going to work out, because eventually this version of God that we have here, we have to transplant his ass to our prime Earth, pre-Flashpoint for the JSA to take them on and stuff like that in the future. Because even this, you have the embodiment of Gog and the kingdom and stuff like that, but it's not this Gog per se, and it's such a weird idea too, because by the end of the story, we have to somehow, it feels like to me at least, erase everybody's mind on Earth 22 in order to get anything that we have happen in Kingdom Come.
Well, it's weird because, like you said, and when they get there, when Batman and Superman get here, the big play, they want to save David. They're upset. Superman will leave anybody. If he's a Boy Thunder sidekick, if he's a John Kenna's son, if he ends up being adopted, Ortho and Oso, he will let you
even
get
his pal,
kidnapped.
Jimmy Olsen.
Everybody gets kidnapped, and he always ends up not being able to save them. And he's trying to do it here again.
Just a few years too late, just like his boy John.
Yeah, David's pissed, and David's like and it's weird too. The play here, I guess he's so angry and so upset at this point that he's just like, screw them.
Well, even the idea, but he doesn't feel this way. He actually loves Batman and Superman. Everything that he is doing here with this heel turn where he's ordering the Justice Battalion to take out these guys. I've never seen them before, but they're here to kill my ass. I need you to stop them. Well, Gog is whispering in everybody's ears, making them So, what is the word I'm looking at?
Subservient.
Subservient, thank you. For some reason, I almost want submissive, and I don't know why, but
you have this, submissive, maybe.
It is Thunder Man working towards what he believes is the greater good for whatever Gog has planned with his so-called ascension.
I don't think it's going to work out right, Eric.
I
don't think it will work out right. Yeah, so when you get here, the cool play, though, and what Mark Waid is playing with when they get there, nobody on Earth 22 knows of a multiverse. They're not, well, we don't think anybody does. That's not quite exactly the case, but most of the people, all of the heroes, they don't know. So that is the play, because a lot of people, I've even seen some people complain about this, saying, oh, wait a minute, like how Jordan, he'd know that's a real Superman. He'd know that's how? You don't know of the multiverse. Superman. Yeah, how is it that you end up where you're going to say, oh, I get it, that they think it's a doppelganger, they think it's an evil version, it's a villain. And that's where David plays it up. Now,
it's my clone, and I better kill it before it kills me.
Exactly. You've always went with that 100%. And unfortunately, people don't realize, but your clone, Eric, did kill you like 10 years ago and replaced you, just like Paul McCartney.
Why don't I know?
All this going down. Well, because you're the clone and everything mixed in together, right? The universe, the hyper-time fixes it. You don't.
But what is a soul, Jim?
That I can say 100% you never have. So there you go. Neither
Not
have
for
I.
dancing.
Yeah, neither of us can dance well, is what I'm saying. We're spiritual, we're afraid of ghosts, and we have no soul, we can't dance. So there you go. We're in big trouble in the afterlife. So when we have all this going down, that's a cool play. That's a smart play to go in here because you're going to have all these heroes think that, obviously, this Batman and Superman, they're not our Batman and Superman, so they must be clones, doppelgangers. They're evil. They're here.
David's saying they're trying to kill him. And we love David. That Thunderman, he's A-okay in our book.
I love it. It's like, he's A-okay. He'll never lie to us, though. I did think when they were, yelling some things around, the one play is, does everybody know that, Thunderman's name is David? Because that's his secret deal. And that's where Batman kind of gets and of course it's Batman who's going to figure things out, but it does take that
Kingdom
play
Come
because
Batman, yes.
Yeah, Kingdom Come Batman, because even the Kingdom Come Superman says, David's never lied. I can tell. I'm like a human lie detector. And Batman does say, only when you're thinking somebody might be.
I'm always on my game, Superman. And how did they know that his name was David? You big blue dummy.
Yeah, really. I like the idea where when Batman says, listen, you only know somebody's lying if you think they might be lying and you check it. I wanted Superman to be like, what the hell you say? Like, I could tell when somebody's heartbeat goes quicker, but he trusts them. He thinks that and Batman looks into it. Batman looks in and says, the backstory he's told us is a complete and utter lie. And we know his real backstory, which is pretty tragic, especially for him causing some stuff. But really, you feel bad for David. He's like a kid he's being tossed around.
This is the thing, is I don't feel bad for David until I realize that he is trying to do the greater good by the end. Then I start feeling bad for David again, because at this point I'm like, fuck that kid, let's get back to our
Earth. I still felt bad for him in the way that he ends up on our Earth, and then he gets sucked out of there and sucked all over the place, right? But when you have this all everywhere. Going down, you do have Gog, and he's lording over everybody. You have to bow before him. He's doing his God stuff, but he is on this.
Everybody worships God.
Yeah, they do. And he's on this big, platform throne type thing. And it becomes a big play going on. But I told you when we first started.
Okay, what'd you tell me?
Oh, I was just saying that when I first saw it, I never thought what it was. It reminded me of me saying, oh, Eric would like this maybe for some sort of play set.
Toy, yeah.
I said it looks like a He-Man toy. It really does. But you go on then.
Oh, no, that's the idea, though, because some of the stuff you have in this issue, too, like, even though I say by the end what we really need is everybody's mind to be erased for however you're going to do that, it just seems like that needs to happen. One of the things that shows up in this issue is what they call the catacombs, which is a prison where all of our Justice Battalion have round up all the supervillains on Earth, and it almost comes across what Superman would make later on after Kingdom Come during the Gulag, like becoming the Gulag, the same kind of idea. I'm like, are there still things that are this memory that exists over top later on, or is this? I'm telling you, I just can't see Kingdom Come being a world where they all served under Gog and stuff like that. Everything that happened here happened in the Kingdom Come stuff that everybody knows about. It just feels so weird.
It does. It looks great. When they go in, you see Penguin, Bane, and Two-Face. I don't know why they're in one cell together. That you're asking for trouble there. Also, I don't know why, except maybe it's Batman who does do this. But Batman Kingdom Come Batman, he's starting to kind of think maybe things aren't what they're supposed to be, and he might look into it. But why would they put him in a cell with Metron? Because they end up putting him in the cell. And then in the corner, it's like, ooh, help me. I need help. I'm starving. And they realize, oh, my God, it's Metron. And that plays out with, didn't you notice what you had Gog sitting on?
All I thought about, after reading the stupid 2015, I think it was Secret Wars, all he was the Molecule Man asking for food in that goddamn cage.
Hanging upside down, wanting an old hamburger that's years old, but it was in stasis there. So you end up where it is kind of that play. But he's there and he wants knowledge. He's starving of knowledge, and he's going to give us the backstory, especially if people don't know.
He's starving for knowledge. He's Metron of the New Gods. He's dying because he needs information. That's who he is. And what does the motherfucker do? He gives away the information. Doesn't listen to Clark or Bruce this entire time. He tells them what's going on.
Yeah, and so now he's even more hungry. He's handing out meals. It'd be funny at the end. They're like,
true hero.
At the end, they okay, well, we'll give you knowledge. He's like, yeah, that was kind of metaphor there. I need a meal.
Give me a hamburger,
I need a hamburger. I am starving.
Did you pass a Big Belly Burger on your way to the catacombs?
Yeah, that'd be great. So you have this, or what that big, Hollywood, Planet Hollywood, but the superhero one that they ended up eating earlier.
Planet Krypton, yeah.
It's like Superman and Batman are like, man, I got to take a dump. I ate a lot at that Planet Krypton. He's like, you son of a bitch. But what happens here, and this is where, if you're going to do something, you're going to have some multiversal stuff. Like you said, Gog has to end up places. Well, he's on the Mobius chair.
Even the idea in this where Metron gives off the idea that, Gog is a God is a god from the third world before the fourth world stuff with New Genesis Apocalypse. And from that war-torn thing, God decided he did not want to participate in this fight. And because of this, the third world was destroyed. The embers of that became New Genesis and Apocalypse. And he was cast down into limbo until he eventually made his way out onto Earth 22. And Metron kept in touch with him this whole time, telling him different things and seeing how it is. He is an old god from the third world here, which means there can only be one of them, unless you want to go the whole, Grant Morrison route where they're avatars throughout the multiverse. But I want to think there's only the one true God here, which will have to eventually end up in Earth Prime or Earth 1 because it's pre-Flashpoint when it happens to JSA. And that's the whole thing because Darkseid or Highfather, this is the one and only, and he wants to take their asses out. The ascension that he keeps talking to David about, the idea of getting all of these heroes to end all violence in the universe, or now that he knows about, the multiverse, stuff like that, Metron, and a way to get there with the Mobius chair, he's going to get revenge on these gods, the afterthought of what his generation of gods were, and he's going to kill them all with his battalion of heroes here to the point where he doesn't even care if he wins or loses, just as long as everybody, including his side, dies. The ascension. And I'm like, that's go with shit there, Gog.
When I told you before, any sport that I play, I don't care if I win. I want the other team to lose, and
it's just good old cosmic revenge.
I want to see the pain.
You punished me for not participating in a war previously. I'm going to bring the ultimate war, and we're all going to die because of it.
There are levels of villains, and we talk about the idea. And you always had that vampire or the vampire idea of we're going to take over the world. Well, you can't kill all somebody finally came up with that smart idea. Well, you can't kill everybody because then you starve to death and whatnot. But some people don't care. They just want to destroy everything. And we've had things, the darkness, and then this with God. They just want to destroy everything. And that's the worst type of villain because he doesn't care. And he's fooling everyone. He's a fooler, Eric. And he's doing all this. And they're all like, man, this is going to be great. But there is no way out of it. It's a suicide deal. But in the meantime, you even have David when he's talking to Gog and says,
we're all going to go to heaven, aren't we, Gog? Yes, we are, David.
I'm telling you, all of a sudden he's like, get the tracksuits on and we're going to drink some Kool-Aid. We got hail bomb going. It's going to be great. He's like,
cut your balls off.
Keep going, David. So in that, there's the one little thing where, and you said you get David talking about some things. And one point he says, should we tell them that they're never coming back? Can you tell them that they even are Batman, Superman? They can't get back to the world. But you have the Mobius chair, and once you realize somebody needs to have something multiversal for our Batman and Superman to get back, just happens to be Gog, Mobius chair. So I think that's kind of the way that Gog will get back as well, but things will go, we'll have to see how it goes and how
that's an interesting idea, because if we do, by the end of this issue, we are raising a resistance where the Kingdom Come Batman and Superman get down for what our Superman and Batman are throwing at them. So the idea, it starts even though you have that godlike power of Gog who's giving them the pretty much the brain widges where it's making them feel subservient to him, they can bypass that and hopefully they can get through to everybody else. Almost what you had with House of M, where everybody's mind was wiped except for Wolverine's until Emma Frost read his mind, and then you start doing that psychic stuff over and over again. Or even what we had with the Titans, Titans United that we had in that alternate blood pact. So what that idea that we have to have a psychic or something to unleash everybody's minds, but because this seems like something you get over on your own, you can raise this army against them. I'm sure there's going to be some people that you're still going to have to fight against who don't want to believe that their ever-loving Gog is bad. But once this is all said and done, you can have Mobius back on his chair, take Batman and Superman back to Earth, and have Gog hitch a ride to where he'll then crash down in the sleep for a few, years.
Yeah, I'm thinking the idea where when they take Batman and Superman back, whether or not they know that God, I imagine, and we've had it so many times, and not even in this, we even have it in, Bill and Ted, things like that, right, where all of a sudden that trail of energy, and then he'll latch onto it and they'll pull him in, and then he'll get thrown aside.
I think he ends up on an island where he's a big monolith head until he wakes up and something like that. So if I remember it correctly.
And there is that other crazy play, maybe with Mobius and with Metron getting on the Mobius chair, and there might be that play of, listen, things have to work out a certain way. That's the way that it's been. That's the knowledge that I have. And he kind of sets it that way. We'll have to see.
I just hope it's not something like, hey, Motherbox, can you wipe everybody on this planet's mind? Ping. Okay.
Oh, you don't want that? I don't want the multiverse heals itself. Once God's gone and things are going, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't need that. But I think so far, and This is one of those plays. I'm not saying that every little, like sometimes, and we have stories like this. I said we've had some things like this before. And a lot of times what they want to do, and it's actually, it's like any year one or any flashback type story where you already know how it ends up. You don't need non-stop Easter eggs. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like everybody's saying things. And that's what I like about this. There's things that you can...
Hey, look, there's Peacemaker. He still looks like Boba Fett. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. And when you're talking about the whole play that might end up the gulag and things, this is just things that are intriguing you. It's not like full spelled out. Like they're not walking through and Superman's like, man, this is like a gulag. It's so crazy. And I'm glad that it's not that. This feels, it doesn't feel hokey when it really could be. And a lot of times these things do end up that way. I like where when I'm going through this, the little bits, once you get Metron, then things start to really like, okay, we might be able to do some things. Because up until that point, it really does feel like, yeah. And it feels like, ooh, like how is this going to work? Almost the idea, like I think you were probably afraid as me, things are going to get fudged by the end. But then once you get Metron, you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. And I think Mark Waid does a really good job here because Gog, while a lot of people will know the basis and the basics of a Kingdom Come, Gog might be something that you do have to spell out a little more.
You don't even really deal with until the Kingdom if you have read that. But like even this, because you see Gog give his power to David to turn him into his emissary Magog, who will eventually become, what spurns everything going forward in Kingdom Come. So it makes sense. Like, but this is the origin of Magog for people who are Kingdom Come fans.
So what you're saying, too, though, is basically Mark Waid's like, I better tell people about God because not that many people read The Kingdom, not as much as Kingdom Come.
It's true.
And it's true. It is true. But I like it, and it works in the story. You don't have to explain the Kingdom Come stuff as much as the God stuff. That's the big play. And yeah, when you see David, he is, like you said, he becomes a little more sympathetic. And he becomes a guy who he realizes things aren't that great, but he's got to go along, kind of play along. And I do like that. Yeah, and you even have a little bit of a play even when Kingdom Come Batman comes and there's Superman Batman there. They say, like, Gog has a sway over everybody. Like, some of us are able to fight it off a little better. Me, Batman, you know what I'm saying? But it's still there, even with that. So they end up going, and I did like it. You kind of got that play that Batman and Superman would be the ones, especially Batman. I will say at one point I started losing track of which was which. I'm like, okay, is that gray hairs? Oh yes, that is the Kingdom Come Superman. The Batman, he's in a different deal, but then they're in a cell and you're only showing heads. And I'm like, God darn it! But yeah, I got the deal. It's funny. Batman has that like claw scrape across his.
That's how you know he's Kong.
And that's, really, he does look like, he looks exactly like Kong. But again, the big play is they have Metron, they have Metron. You have Gog on the Mobius chair, and Metron ends up saying this whole ascension, it's not good. It's not great. They're going to go, they're going to fight. Yeah, they're going to go fight Apocalypse. They're going to go do that, but nobody's coming back. You're not supposed to come back. It is a one-way trip. He just wants to destroy everything. And that's a pretty cool ending.
It's a huge, compelling story. The only problem with it is that at the beginning is you're like getting a who's who of the Kingdom Come universe with the Justice Battalion taking on Batman and Superman until they are eventually overcome. And I'm like, this is a lot of action for half of the issue.
That's more of like the wow moments.
I'll tell you this, though. I don't know if it's Dan Mora. I don't know if it's Mark Waid. But when they showed these three other characters that Batman doesn't recognize, so it's not like for a one-for-one doppelganger situation in this universe, where it looks like you have an Artemis Croc maybe grown up to become Tigress. But the other two, you got a Flamin' Wolfman covered in chains and what looks like a gold Spider-Man or Sideways. I'm like, I don't know who's in charge of these characters, who created them, who designed them. I feel like I've seen this Tigress in Kingdom Come before, but the other two I don't recognize. And they'd be losing money if they don't like make this Sideways or something like that. For that gold. Like if Sideways comes back and has this badass gold uniform, like he's almost like the Scarlet Spider, but in gold, it's so cool. And look, I'm not necessarily like, I don't need the Flaming Wolfman covered in chains, but I kind of want to see him in a regular continuity.
Well, the funny play and what I think it's a weird, we talked about this with Earth 3, the idea of how this works where a new character is introduced. Does that then meld in the hyper time of the multiverse and boom, you have that character in an Earth 3 counterpart like deal. We talked about this before. I kind of think that might be the signal in the middle. It kind of looks like Duke Thomas, maybe.
He's just so Spider-Man looking.
He does look like Sideways as well, but if you think about it, it's a weird play, but it's pretty cool. And like you said,
so cool.
I think it's one of those where they probably do have, like, it's a newer character that was introduced after, Kingdom Come's pretty old story right now. So you end up where what characters, and Sideways, it could be. Now, if it's Sideways, that is a deep cut that we would love. That would be awesome. But yeah, and then I'm like, oh, and then there's Silencer and Brimstone. See, it all works out.
Honestly, you're saying that could work in that whole context of it for how you're saying
it. Wouldn't it be cool if it was?
The only problem, continuity speaking wise, is that we are in the past of our main continuity, which is we're further in the past in the Kingdom Come because that's in the future, but still, their futures are... Never mind, it's confusing, but we're still in the past.
I know what you're saying.
In order for Sideways to have his powers, we have to open up a rift to the dark multiverse that he has to fall through to get his powers, and we don't have a dark multiverse yet.
Now you're causing troubles.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, I like that play, though. I like the cool idea of when new characters are introduced and you go back, you're just there. Now you're getting too technical. I'm like, it doesn't work. Any character I bring up, you're like, well, Duke Thomas would need this, and he'd have...
Listen here, dummy.
But yeah, I do like it, though. And by the end, you set up all those things, and I'm very intrigued now, especially of like, okay, there's some pieces in play. How will this end up being resolved? And hopefully it gets resolved in a way that makes complete sense. But
I feel like we got to stop it before we take any kind of war to New Genesis or freaking Apocalypse.
I don't think we have to go there. That'll be weird. Maybe you just trick Gog into thinking he's... I don't know. I don't know how you're going to do this, but we'll have to find out and see if it involves, obviously it'll involve the Mobius chair and Metron and that sort of thing in the multiverse. You see the old multiversal map there, too. Pretty cool. When you have Metron showing
It's kind of cool. It's just a weird thing because, obviously, again, this is the past, but I want to see what the new multiversal map, now that we're back to infinite worlds.
Yeah, it's weird, though. They only had, a weird, checklist type deal. You do need to get a visual because that visual, you see it. You don't even have to be very detailed. You see it from an angle and you're like, yep, there it is.
And it's such a weird idea, too, to think about the idea where we are currently in the continuity because we are in the past with World's Finest, right? But a post-crisis world, but even though some characters are still existing that shouldn't exist post-crisis. But what we have here, the whole multiversal guidebook that we had, that existed from a New 52 universe where I don't know if there was ever a crisis in that timeline. So what is going on with the map that he's showing right there? Would there be 52 worlds in the past of this? Or has everything just been reborn and it healed itself? Time fixed itself and shit like that.
You want to know the answer? I have the answer. That's why you can't read it. It's blurry because they don't have an answer and it's there. It's the multiverse. Here it goes. I like how Gog's staring at okay, I gotta figure this thing out. It's pretty cool. But yeah, by the end, we'll have to see how this all works out. But I do think that
the multiverse, you say, Metron,
trying to explain the entire multiverse and what it would mean in this past of how he's doing it, where some of the characters are a little wonky. He's like, I'm not getting involved. I imagine he's there and he's like, that guy from Weird Science is always bitching and moaning about shit. I don't need that.
Shazam is the same age in the past as he is now.
He's so angry. He's like, I'd have to go to their website and try to explain this shit to these dummies. I don't need to do that. I got other shit to do. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I had a lot of fun with this issue, and the ideas behind it are big and complex. It actually makes all my nerdy little hearts things go. And I'm like, I had fun by the end, and I look forward to what's coming next. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
I am an 8 out of 10 as well.
Hey, all you weirdos, if you like comic book shows, podcasts, videos, please check the description of this video where you can see links to all of our podcast shows, websites, all of that. And if you want to help us out for everything that we do, you can click on that Patreon link in the upper left-hand corner and check out our Patreon where you can go right now and get a 7-day free trial to see all the stuff that we do, shows that are Marvel, DC, indie, manga, and even more. So check all that out, and I'll talk to you all later.
Weird Science
is the revolution.